The last time Angela Merkel was in Athens, Greece was enjoying 4% growth. Yes, that was 5 years ago. 5 years later, the German chancellor back in town for a visit that shows her commitment to keeping Greece inside the Eurozone, both to her own public opinion and to the Greeks themselves. This visit can only partially soothe the tension with Berlin, though. True, no one ever expected there to be a ticker tape parade or streets to be spontaneously renamed in Merkel's honor. But the main beef from these protesters that you see is that the medicine ordered by Europe and the IMF is proving more deadly than the disease in the Greek economy, set to contract now for a sixth straight year. So what is the remedy to cure Greece and perhaps soon Spain? These folks are the Eurozone finance ministers who Monday in Brussels unveiled that new European stability mechanism that should at least ease the pain for now. But will it reassure the markets and, better yet, help soak up that sea of red ink that threatens the entire continent? Today in the France 24 debate, will the rescue deepen the woe? And with us to talk about it from London, Kostas Lapavitsas, who teaches economics at the School of Oriental and African Studies, the author of Crisis in the Eurozone. Welcome, sir. Welcome as well to Jean-Claude Betbez, chief economist at Crédit Agricole. We have with us France 24 business editor Marcus Carlson, and from the International Herald Tribune, Anne Bagger-Murray. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find us at François F24. The German chancellor in Athens, in the company of her Greek counterpart, repeating her nation's commitment to keeping Greece inside of the Eurozone, saluting her host's efforts so far. But, she says, it's not over.
Much has been demanded of the people here, making life difficult for them. But again, let me say, I am deeply convinced that it is going to prove worthwhile, and Germany intends to be a good partner on this difficult path of yours.
Marcus Carlson, we weren't expecting her to say any different, now were we?
We were expecting the words from Merkel that, yes, I'm behind a Eurozone membership, or Greece's Eurozone membership. And
should this visit have come sooner?
Perhaps from a PR perspective. I mean, this to a certain extent was a PR stunt by Angela Merkel, the German chancellor. She wanted to show that she actually had the nerves, perhaps, to go to Athens, where she has been criticized for quite some time at this stage. I mean, the Greek newspapers, they have labeled her, or they have equaled her to Hitler, back from the time when Germany was in charge in Greece, and back from sort of throwing back to the Second World War. So certainly Merkel had a lot of things to show when she got to Athens.
Anne Bagger-Murray, do you think that trip came too late, too soon? Why did it come now?
Why did it come now? Well, one very strong theory about it is that it came now because Angela Merkel is facing elections in Germany, and she needs to play to her domestic audience. She needs to show show the Germans that she does stand behind the euro, and that she wants to help Greece out of its troubles without committing any more German funds. And she's facing a tough competitor at home. Her former finance minister, Peer Steinbrück, has been named by the opposition SPD party to run against her as chancellor, and he is much softer on Greece than she is. And that seems to be a popular position in Germany, only in the sense that he wants to help Greece out. He doesn't want to impose as tough an austerity regime as she does, which is seen in Germany now. I keep mixing those up. Is seen now as not really solving the problem. So he's proposing something that she is, I think, trying to adopt, at least in part. She's softened her stance. And so a lot of what she was doing on this highly symbolic trip, in which she said absolutely nothing new or unexpected, is to shore up her own support at home.
Kostas Lapavitsas, do you think Merkel is tacking a new course?
Not at all. I think the visit was indeed symbolic, and I think it signifies three things. The first is it signifies the absolute determination on the part of core countries, and in particular Germany, not to kick Greece out. I mean, all that talk about kicking Greece out of the Eurozone was not really serious. the risks are far too great from kicking Greece out at this stage for the global financial system and for the euro. So it signifies the determination to keep Greece in. The second thing it signifies is the determination of the ruling elite in Greece to stay in the euro, no matter what the cost. They've got no other strategy. They're determined to stay in the euro, no matter what it means for the economy. The third thing it signifies, this visit, is that society and economy in Greece are falling apart very rapidly, and the ordinary people in Greece are prepared to accept neither the German core country position nor the ruling elite's position. The mix of all these things, these three things, is combustible, highly unstable and combustible, and the situation is not going to be maintained on a level of stability for very long, I don't think.
All right, shifting political winds in Germany, shifting political winds in Greece. And I've just got to ask you this, though. There is Angela Merkel's fashion faux pas. Athensnews.com picking up on the fact that the Chancellor this Tuesday wore the same green jacket as back in June in Gdansk when she celebrated Germany's elimination of Greece at Euro 2012. How is that going to go down?
Why are you asking me? Because I'm the only woman on the panel. How's it going to go down? Well, people are noticing it, obviously. I could say that's probably bad staff work on somebody's part. If you're going to be symbolic, you really need to make sure that all of your ducks in a row. I don't know. This is going to be like the American elections. We're going to have a trivia story on it for a cycle, and then we'll move on to something else.
Okay. More serious note, Jean-Paul Bedbez, last 4 years, the Greek economy has shrunk by 20%. Economists expecting it to drop another further 6.5% this year. It's an untenable situation. They're never going to pay this money back. You just heard Kostas Lapavitsas say they're also not going to leave the Eurozone. So what is going to happen?
You know, the story is, from a Greek perspective, the situation is really, really bad, okay? And what are we supposed to do? And what is the economic solution? The economic solution, for what I mean, for what I understand, is that they will grow thanks to exports. And exports, due to the fact that they will really depress internal demand, so that companies, if they want to survive, have merely to find some solution outside. And second, which helps a lot, of course, that they are cutting wages. So it is deflation. The name of this, the code name for this is deflation. The second story is, and this is for me the explanation of what is going on with Madame Merkel, is that she arrives and she is there because normally everything is ready for Greece to be there, plus the others. Okay, so it doesn't mean anything to ask Greece to leave now, at the very moment where the people are convinced, where the court of Karlsruhe said okay. It doesn't mean anything. Okay,
does that mean that troika of
will say
lenders, the IMF, the EU, and the EC? Does that mean that now they're going to write that check?
My understanding is that the troika say, well, we are very sorry, it is not enough, something like that, and we need something like 2 years more, and they will say yes. Okay, they will give time. Okay, the question is that when you give time, someday you will have to give money. Okay, but now they say we give you time so that we have some alleviation, some improvement in the situation, in the financial situation in Greece, so that we take care of Spain, because the big story is that Spain, and we cannot, have at the same time something very problematic in Spain and something problematic as well in Greece. So my understanding is everything is ready. Everything is ready for all the countries. All the countries which are under trouble. Spain is most welcome to say, I would, like to be under special program, as we say. As far as Greece is concerned, we take care of them, and we see with time how they behave. But everyone knows that as far as Greece is concerned, it's not a question of 1 year, 5 years, it's a question of 20 years to rebuild the organization.
All right. The Germans, by the way, not alone in showing tough love ahead of going to the IMF Annual Assembly in Tokyo. This is what its managing director had to say.
So we'll do the job, we'll stick to what we have to do, and we'll be determined to do as quickly and as much as we can.
All right. There you heard the words of Christine Lagarde. All politicians have gone back on their word since the start of the euro crisis. Angela Merkel and Christine Lagarde, no exception. It's a particularly hard sell, it seems, though, convincing German taxpayers to write off 20 billion euros of their money, which is what debt relief would entail. Some even argue that debt forgiveness is illegal. This is what Jörg Asmussen, who's on the European Central Bank's board, told Bild am Sonntag. We can neither extend the periods on Greek sovereign bonds nor can we lower the interest payments. Both would be a form of debt forgiveness and thus a direct financing of the Greek state. Legally, the ECB is not allowed to do that. So, Kostas Lapavitsas, are the cards falling into place as Jean-Paul Betbez just described it, or are they not?
Let's start with first things first. The policy that's been applied to Greece is one of stabilization through austerity. This is the common policy applied across Europe, except that in Greece it's been much harsher than elsewhere. Now this policy doesn't work, and it doesn't work because basically it destroys demand and it puts the economy in a downward spiral. In the case of Greece, it's a deathly spiral. I mean, the economy is shrinking all the time. Exports are no solution because even exports have been declining the last few months. Exports to the EU have been falling for a period, but exports outside the EU have also started falling because there's no credit for exporters. So this policy doesn't work. It basically contracts the economy. It puts it on a low level equilibrium, and that's what's going to be. Now, the policy is supplemented by a policy of growth, presumably, and this policy of growth will happen because is based on low wages, crashing wages, and liberalizing and privatizing the economy. Now, again, that is highly unlikely to work. Low wages are no lever for growth in the long run. And privatization and liberalization have got very debatable results in growth terms, and they take a long time to appear. So for Greece, the prospect is one of contraction and stagnation for the foreseeable future, and that's pretty much the same across Europe. Greece is harsher. Now, in that context, the Greek debt is absolutely unpayable. Anybody who thinks that the Greek debt at its current level is sustainable just hasn't looked at the figures. Greek debt is absolutely unsustainable. It will need a haircut. It will need cancellation. And this time it's going to be much worse than what happened last March, because this time the debt is mostly owed to official lenders. The handling of the debt so far has been so bad that the debt has been swapped from private to official lenders, and obviously the loser now, those who will have to bear the costs of Greek cancellation, will be taxpayers. And politically, this will be much, much more difficult to bring to bear in Europe and elsewhere. That's the predicament at the moment. It's an unsustainable situation, and I don't see how it's going to work out the way that those who make policy in the EU think it is going to work out.
Jean-Paul Betbez, there you hear Kostas Lapavitsas saying that the debt has jumped from the private banks to the public.
This is completely true. The story is that people is trying to gain time, okay, to see what is going on and to see what we can do. As far as privatization is concerned, we have to organize and we have to embark on the process of privatization. At the first, visit by the IMF, they said it could be something like 55 billion euros. Of course, it is not serious. We realize now maybe it is 10 or 15, but this has to be done. So it is a gradual process, and everyone is saying, I know that we have, a lot of difficulties to pay back, but we have to move forward and to improve the situation. The same, for example, to have a proper system to collect taxes or something like that. So now to say the country cannot pay, everyone knows, okay? But the question is, what do you want? A country that is collapsing, or a country you can help gradually with time and for this, in this process, you avoid to have a rogue state. You know, the big risk we all have is to have a rogue state, a state in which police and the army would not work any longer, they would not be paid and something like that. They say, well, we don't take care, and this would be anarchy or something like that. So in my understanding, there is politics and there is geopolitics in this, and so people is, in a sense, buying time so that, you know, the crisis would be presented in a better way. So privatization, for me, it's a part of the solution, and of course we have an organization to make, because this country does not work, police does not work too much, tax collection does not work, justice does not work, and so this has to be implemented, and this takes time.
Marcus Carson, you agree 2 years would be beneficial at this point, a sort of a grace period?
Well, it certainly seems that way. I mean, we've already talked about the debt mountain that there is in Greece at the moment, because next year it is believed that the debts will go up to 180% of Greek GDP. That's a huge burden. Basically, the belief is out there that a country could deal with around about 120% or so of its GDP in debts. So there's a huge gap between those two figures, 120% versus 180%. So it certainly seems as if something's got to give. But I also want to add this into this talk. It seems, even from an objective standpoint, that Greek leaders have been dragging their feet when it comes to the reform process. For instance, you were talking about the privatizations. So far this year, the Greek state, they've privatized 81 million euros worth of assets. The target is 3 billion euros in 2012. They simply won't be able to get there because the Greek government, it's been slow off the mark.
You have unions as well, which are rather powerful and against this.
Absolutely.
Kostas Lapavitsas, fair point.
Not at all, actually. The private sector in Greece is one of the least regulated and least controlled private sectors in Europe. In some respects, recently, the private sector in Greece is a little bit like the Wild West. I mean, what's been happening to wages and conditions of labor for ordinary people is just indescribable. So the notion that private business is constrained by regulations, high wages, unions, and so on, it just doesn't have any connection with reality in Greece. The notion that growth can come because there'll be some privatization, there'll be further deregulation, wages will be driven even further to the ground, again, doesn't cut it. Because what
doesn't cut it. We're gonna Kostas Lapavitsas interrupt you because we do have to take a quick break, but we'll pick up on that point when the France 24 returns.